Hello, my friends. It's Jessie K. Thank you for tuning into my channel today. Please take a moment, if you haven't already, just like and subscribe because I have some positive things to share and I will have more coming your way. So, if you guys need a little upbuilding, here's, just go ahead and like and subscribe. But anyway, so the topic for today is coming from a podcast that I recently listened to on Spotify. I'm going to drop that in the description. But this is just kind of my thoughts about that podcast and just a lot that I took away from it. First and foremost, I want to say that I think that as humans, we have a tendency to help others, but then we criticize ourselves overly whenever we make a mistake, right? And whenever other people make a mistake, especially if it's somebody we're close to, if it's a friend or family, we'll kind of talk them through hey, it's okay, whatever. But whenever it's us, we're beating ourselves up about it, right? So that's the topic for today is self-criticism versus self-compassion. And this is something that I never really thought about that much. This conversation kind of started in the podcast. We're talking about self-esteem and what self-esteem really is. And I'm not going to get into that too much, but one thing that self-esteem, they really emphasize is that your self-esteem oftentimes is comparative to other people, right? So how you feel about yourself is basically you're comparing yourself to other people whenever you're thinking about self-esteem. So if I have high self-esteem, that's relative to somebody else who might have low self-esteem. Or I might have low self-esteem because I am looking at somebody who, for whatever reason, I just think is better than me. And so that causes me to have low self-esteem. But self-compassion, though, what I really like about self-compassion is that it's recognizing that it's kind of like leveling the playing field. We're all imperfect. We all are, have flaws. We all make mistakes. So instead of looking at it from this lens of comparing myself with the next person, it's more or less just saying, hey, look, we all make mistakes. And whenever I make a mistake, instead of, basically just beating myself up about it, I'm going to build myself up, okay? And that's basically where I'm going to take this conversation today. So why do we self-criticize ourselves, right? Why do we beat ourselves up so bad whenever we do something? And one thing that I really liked about this podcast is it helped us to understand is that you only do that because you care, right? You sometimes, whenever something goes wrong and you can't, talk to somebody else about it, we keep it inside and we beat ourselves up, right? And so, but we don't criticize ourselves because we hate ourselves, obviously, but we want to be better people. We honestly want to be perfect, but that's not possible, right? That's not possible. We can't be perfect right now. So it's we have to learn how to cope with our imperfections. And self-criticism, while it's important to kind of not over scrutinize our actions, but learn from them, self-compassion is really a nice way of doing that, right? And what self-compassion really is think about this. Let's just say you have a friend who's down. And if that friend is down because they made a mistake and they know they shouldn't have made that mistake, and you're just sitting there listening to them, you're just oh my goodness, you put your hand on their sholdr, you're like, you know what, I know what you're going through, I'm so sorry. And you're just talking them through that, trying to help them feel better. In the same way though, self-compassion is just kind of just doing that, but to yourself, okay? And at first it might seem a little weird, I'm talking to myself, whatever. But at the end of the day, what you're really doing is you're fortifying yourself, okay? You're kind of setting yourself up for success, because once you build yourself up and say, for example, for myself, I'd be like, hey, Jessica, yes, you shouldn't have done, XYZ thing, but it's okay. You're imperfect. So what can we do to fix that? How can we move forward? Just that self-compassion instead of what I usually do, which is, you suck, you're bad, you just need to stop, what are you doing, you're ruining everything. That doesn't help. That's not positive. That does not build you up, right? And that's the type of thinking that we kind of in this society, especially Western society, they kind of teach you to be hard on yourself so you don't break rules. And being hard on yourself on one hand is okay because you want to be in line, you want to follow the rules, you don't want to make mistakes. But when you do, because it's not an if, when you do make a mistake, you have to there's this point where it's okay, I'm gonna accept that I made the mistake. I don't want to make it again, but I'm not gonna beat myself up and be so resentful and just hanging on to that bad energy, because what that ends up doing in turn is it ends up manifesting in a different way, be it physical, mental, whatever. You end up manifesting that bad energy in some other form. And it could come out in something you say to somebody else, or it could come out in just physical ailments. Either way, that energy does not just go away just because you decide to suppress it. Instead, it most of the time just builds up and gets backed up. So it's really good to relieve yourself of those negative thoughts, negative energies, and really just build yourself up. And one way that I really do this in the mornings, and what I'm working on, is just talking to myself in the mirror, looking at myself and say, you're beautiful, okay? You are fantastic, okay? You've been through so many things that plenty of people don't know about, but guess what? You are still standing, you are still strong, okay? And it's just having that moment just with myself is so helpful, so beneficial. And that's why I'm just I just have to share this. I have to get this out, because it's one of those things I think that I feel this kind of awakening to the fact that we're not just physical beings. There's more to this body than just the physical, right? We know that we have a mental self, we have an emotional self, but there's also the energy part of it. There's also the spiritual part of it. And that's the part that I think that in Western society, they're finally waking up to, but this has been around for centuries. We know this has been around for centuries. So it's important that we learn how to tap into this so that we can really not only build ourselves up, but be our best self, right? That's what we all want, is be our best self, even though we're imperfect, even though we're flawed, being our best self. So thank you so much for tying into this and listening to this. I hope you guys learned something. If you have any feedback, drop it in here, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for listening, and that's Jessie K. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Peace out.